Hi, everyone. My name is Adebowale Banjo. I'm co-founder, CEO at mycover.ai, and we are building Africa's digital insurance infrastructure. For the latest news on insurance technology in Africa, keep listening to InsurTech Business Series and stay updated.
Welcome to the InsurTech Business Series podcast. I am Fulumi.
And I am Damola. And together, we host the most exciting podcast on insurance and InsurTech related topics in Africa. Stay tuned.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like you said, it has to be experiential. The approach of digital, right? Physical and digital. I think you can't underestimate that. You can't rule it out, really. You can build all of the tech.
Oh, you can.
Exactly.
Not that this stages marketing.
You can build all the tech, but you have to have that physical touch. And it's something that, it's that balance, right? That perhaps maybe many have not really come to grasp with. And it will be very interesting to see what it becomes, in years to come. And really talking about years to come. You have been in the space from 2014 till now. On one part, I want to ask, right? What has kept you, right? Because insurance is tough. And then perhaps on the other side, then it's what the outlook for you for the space from now to the end of the decade?
What has kept me? Grit. Yeah. But on a serious note, I think it's just the understanding of what this means. I've seen insurance work. I understand what there was an interview I had, and I spoke about how, I use an analogy of the football team, referencing attack, midfield, and defense, and how I said insurance is your defense. I said, imagine going to the World Cup final and you don't have defenders, no goalkeeper, no center back, no left back, no right back. No matter how fantastic your midfielders, which you can call your savings or your attackers, your investment, without insurance, you're exposed and you're really not going to win in life. It's as simple as that. You can't win that much. And that's how it translates to, because every time you have to take from your savings to cover whatever curveballs life throws at you. And then when you marry that with where Africa is, where Nigeria is in terms of disposable income, poverty metrics, and all of those things, you just see that Africa should be the most insured continent. Nigeria should be the most insured country in the world, but we are not. And then you look at all of these things, it just drives you to say, we have to build, a system, a solution where every individual has access to insurance. Our mission is to provide financial security to Africans by improving access to insurance products. So when you look at it from that dimension, is tough to give up, right? Because it's bigger than you, right? You're trying to save a continent from itself. You're trying to save a country from itself. You're trying to save an industry from itself. And then also having some wins, particularly more recently, has helped because, delayed gratification can make the heart weary, right? So having some wins along the way has also helped to keep the fire burning. But I think primarily it's just the mission, because it's like I tell people, this is not the easiest job in the world. There are 1,000,001 things you could be doing and still be having a fabulous time. Yeah, but if you're committed to it, and like I said, it's a marathon. With insurance, is a marathon, right? So for us, I think that's it, that mission, and we've seen it happen, right? We've seen people bounce back from the loss of a dear one, of a breadwinner, just because they were working on a platform that provided them insurance. There's a last mile logistics platform that embedded almost like a bundle insurance product we call delivery cover into their platform. And the rider had an accident. The rider had no idea it was just working, right? But every day he works, there's some element of his pay that goes into it, right? At the end of the day, the guy is involved in an accident, sad story, right? Goes to the hospital, bills are paid. Eventually he dies, and his wife gets a payout as a result of that. Now, while that is not a great story, it underlines the importance of insurance. Now, I'm not sure that woman would have been able to bounce back in any shape or form without that policy, right? Because again, the guy was exposed, the family was exposed just to the adverse economic realities, right? But with daily deductions, he was able to, secure some kind of protection for his family. And I think things like that make it super clear to anyone who's building that this is something that must be done and must be done right. And we must not give up until we get everyone to that place where access to insurance is easy.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Very touching story that you shared there. And really, just like you mentioned, that experiential thing about how we put insurance to people. I think these kind of stories will resonate, right? Perhaps maybe we're not telling our story well and enough, right? And this is something that you definitely need to change. And in order to do all of this, I know that for you, for example, you need a lot of fuel, you need the backing, you need the funding, right? I mean, I've joked in a number of climes, and even when I was running a VC program last year, I was always on their necks around, okay, yes, you're VC, but playing in the African space, you're looking at fintech, yes, but you're only looking at banking, payment tech, and this and that. Hey, what's happening in insurance, right? And if you're looking at the kind of impact that your fund or these solutions will be having on people, insurance has a huge benefit. The average African is one illness away from falling back into poverty, right? How do we provide that kind of cushion? But we are not seeing that inflow of funding to the InsurTech vertical as it should be. I know that last year you announced some funding, $1.2 million funding. Congratulations, on that. I know that as well a lot of things that you're doing today, but just looking at the market, and maybe you can talk from your experience in raising some of this funding and getting the kind of backing that you need to thrive as an InsurTech in Nigeria and even in Africa. What needs to change? Is this a challenge in terms of the industry? Is this a VC landscape challenge, or they just don't know what insurance is, or they don't know what's happening within the space?
I think it's a combination of different factors, right? So there's the African factor, the Nigerian factor, like you mentioned. There's the VC challenge as well. And maybe I take some time to dimension each one. So first, a lot of people invest in what they understand, right? So that's where they start from. So you find that some VCs, first, don't forget that VCs also have to get returns back, right? And so,
yeah,
exactly. So they are looking at how high a return can I get and how quickly can I get it? And then what channel, what sector, what vertical can get me that very quickly, right? So those are the things that they look at. And, there are markets that they understand. There are verticals that they understand. There are markets that make these things easier, right? You look at the South African market, for instance, it's a top market, even with regards to insurance, and you see that quite a number of companies that get funding, they grow very quickly. And before you know it, they expand their operations into not just even other African markets, but into like Europe, America, right? So I think that the level that the market operates in also plays a critical part into how much, VCs want to put into that market. So there's that on the VC side, right? There's also, can I get my money back, right? Can I get that outsized returns? I mean, VCs are always making bets, expecting that at least, one of these lots will give me that outsized return. But historically, they've not had any data here in Nigeria or in Africa to say, this is the guy, right? Like in Nigeria today, you have Paystack where people have successfully made exits, right? There's Totally, that's, Unicorn, there's MoneyPoint. There are a number of companies that have shown what fintech can be, right? So it's easy for someone to say, so if I invest in this company, this is where it can get to. There's a clear trajectory, right? And that is not readily available in InsurTech. So that's one challenge, right, on the VC side. Also, I think that generally founders need to do more in terms of accountability, in terms of just being responsible, right? I'm sure you've seen all that has happened in the last 1 year in our space. And by our space, I mean the tech space, not InsurTech, right? With all kinds of stories all around, right? sometimes it's okay for things not to.
Corporate governance mess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's okay for things not to work, but at least try to do things right. And if you do the best you can and it still doesn't work, I don't think anybody will hold you for that. But we've seen a lot of things here that are just questionable and outright immoral, to be frank, right? So you find that generally investors have started to pull back from even investing in Nigeria. And we raised when all of this was going on. So you could imagine what we went through in terms of due diligence, in terms of just how much we had to prove to show the investors before they were comfortable. So I think that is adversely affecting not just InsurTech, but the tech ecosystem as a whole. And we need to do better. We need to fix up. So there's that. And what all of this does is it then puts a lot of pressure on current InsurTech to, in local parlance, show workings,
Yeah.
to say, look, this is what, so someone can say, I want to raise these funds. Look what my cover.ai has done. They are now operating in 10 African countries. They're unicorn, they're profitable, they've transformed, that kind of thing. So it's easy for investors to draw parallels, right? I think that must happen. So we have to deliver, right? I think that's one thing that's clear for me to see. Thankfully, action, more people are in the space, so it makes for exciting engagements and conversations. But we ultimately have to deliver value. I think that's what's most important, right? Not just around governance, but around just even successful enterprise, right? We have to deliver value.
Yeah. So even talking about attracting funding and getting the support that you need as coming from idea stage, and you have an MVP, and you need that early backer. I've held this sentiment around the fact that insurance companies, incumbents here in the country, they have a lot more of a role to play in fueling the innovation and technology ecosystem that they want to see. At the end of the day, they are the primary beneficiaries of this, or one of the primary beneficiaries alongside customers. In your working with corporates, insurance companies so far, what do you think about the idea around the fact that, hey, can insurance companies begin to put some money on the ground and say, hey, we want to use this to support innovation within the space? Individually, collectively, can do that. But just the fact that they have to play a huge role, a better role than just working with tech companies. Yes, you are the one that has the product, but okay, maybe it's the tech company that is pushing it out there.
Have to. So it's not even something they need to. I don't think it's optional. I think that for where we need to get to, they need to put their money where their mouths are. That's what I would say. I think one or two that I think AXA did something late last year, with some InsurTech companies. But I think generally there's still a lot to be done, and it's a no-brainer, right? If I'm trying to build something, and we've seen banks do this, right? Some of the biggest fintechs in the country today were seeded by banks.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah,
insurance,
Access Bank,
exactly,
Flutterwave,
yeah, and even like InterSwitch and some of the other guys as well. So it's a scenario where maybe the insurance companies haven't really come to the full realization of what their role is beyond just the commercial side of things, but the growth of the market, right? And I mean by that, the expansion of the size of the pie, right? Not just doing marine insurance for large conglomerates or these kind of things. But actually getting the retail market, getting medium-sized businesses. We need to support InsurTechs, straightforward, right? They need to put their money where their mouth is. Imagine where, say, AXA, Allianz, ICO, Leadway, all these guys have their yearly accelerator programs, right? And the best InsurTech ideas are presented there. And they pick top 2, top 1, and you just work with that entrepreneur for a year. And whatever comes out of it, you either learn from it if it doesn't work well, or, it works, and then you are the better for it. And the market as a whole is better for it. I think it's something that I don't know how. And I think another thing that's the problem, there's not enough stakeholder conversations here, where we don't have conversations between insurance companies and tech players and regulators, right? And I think things need to happen more frequently, because then we can share some of these ideas. So for me, it's something that I look forward to seeing, because again, you would expect that that would be typically where InsurTech would exit eventually, right? Through insurance companies, right? As we've seen in other markets, right? We've seen even Allianz.
Mm-hmm.
They even they outside here they have like tech hubs. They are big on tech. They are investing. I was in Germany the other day. I saw what AXA was doing around innovation and startups and more. I'm wondering why that hasn't transcended here. I went to alliances as well. For me, I think that insurance companies here in Nigeria need to be more deliberate about navigating this industry to where it should go. And part of that effort, right, is not just collaboration with tech companies, which they are doing a lot more now, but also backing some of these companies early enough. And on the other side, I would say that, founders as well should try and prove traction as quickly as possible, right? I think that whole idea of just needing other people's money to start from the beginning is really not sustainable, particularly in the climate that we are. Show working on your own side too. Show working. Some kind of concept, no matter how small, just give them some kind of glimpse that this is what can potentially be. And then with your support, I can take it to the next level. I think those days of just raising based on pitch decks, I won't say those days are over, but they are.
Hi, I'm Dr. Neto, founder and CEO of Wella Health, where we're working on affordable access to healthcare using technology and alternative care pathways, microinsurance being central to our work. I'm delighted to be on a chat on InsurTech Business Series, where we talk about some of the stuff we're learning at Wella Health and how we can improve insurance adoption across Nigeria and Africa. Enjoy.
I would agree that they're over right now because a lot of angel investors and also VCs are looking for, like you said, show working, like what have you done? What have you achieved? See, what have you done with your own funding? Do you have a stake in exactly what you just said? People are being very, I don't want to say risk averse, because again, you learn by doing, and if you've invested so much and it's probably not yielding like the right results, we would also want to, put in place those, minimum risk requirements that would help protect yourself against, the eventuality that another company would also fail. People are asking now, again, show workings, borrowing your words. I like the fact that you also talk about, developing the ecosystem and actual collaboration between both insurance companies, InsurTech, and the regulators in this space. I always like to say that as much as we have our insurance companies here, I don't just see how well a lot of the insurance companies or incumbents are aggressive about things like this. Again, there's already a form of acceptability and acceptance between some insurance company. I'll give an instance with, again, AXA, right? The innovation programs and all of that. But we don't have so many insurance companies that are willing to go outside their comfort zone, if you understand what I mean. So it's just like we've done this. If we're going to move, we're just going to move a bit and see how, the markets react. If it's not favorable, we just run back. Unlike the banks that are being aggressive, when fintech started to pop up and they realize that, okay, these guys are beginning to take over this space. Let's see how we can then redefine our business model and see how we can buy some fintechs, take over, those things. So I don't think that incumbents for insurance had gotten to that point where they're now beginning to see InsurTech as threats. Now they're seeing it as, oh, okay, there's something on the horizon, but it's not, for them, it's not yet futuristic or it's not threatening. So I think that's where we are now, because again, you would need people that can see way into the future, 10 years, 20 years, to be able to then buy into having all of this ecosystem conversation.
I mean, you are spot on. In all honesty, I think there's that bit again. Like I said, we need to show workings as well to show how viable this can be, not just for us but for them as well. And like I said, there's been some results on one hand, but I think there's also something around how these companies are structured and the expectations of their shareholders as well. Because when you're doing like investment in startups, you need to be ready to take some losses. You need to be ready to play the long game. Yeah, they are structured to maximize for profit. You can't be building an industry and be maximizing for profit. It just doesn't work, right? I'm not saying they should not maximize for profit, but I think that you can carve out something that's separate from like the core engine, the core machine that is profit driven and very aggressive around customer acquisition and all, and then have some kind of fund that drives experiments, that drives innovation, such that you can find new ways of doing things. I think that structure is something that they need to look at also as well internally. And I've seen it firsthand, right? Maybe there's a change in CEO of an insurance company, and then they just take a different trajectory from all that you guys have been doing. That can even affect InsurTech, right? I remember one time we had to change provider, migrate an entire platform in like maybe 2 months because there was a change in leadership, change in direction, and those kind of things, right? If we did not have the capacity in-house to manage those kind of challenges, probably won't be here, probably won't be having a position, right? So I think that insurance companies, and I don't know how their shareholders will get to hear this or if this is something they're even thinking about, should start looking at this as this is their future. Everywhere else in the world, this is how this has gone. So this is their future. Question is, how much influence do you want to have in your future? Do you want to plan your future or do you want your future to happen to you? You had referenced the banks. The banks were active. The banks don't even take anything for granted, whether it's regulation, whether it's fintech, they are very aggressive about their survival, about their growth. So they are a different animal altogether, right? For me, I think the insurance companies need to retrospect a lot as to how they want to play in this space beyond just meeting their GWP targets and customer drive and all. How do we grow this market? How do we evolve? Thankfully, there are a couple of things that are happening here and there. There's Bima Lab, there's the AXA Innovation, there are a number of things, but a lot more still needs to happen.
Before we let you off, what specifically is the next step now for MyCover AI?
There are a couple of things that we want to do this year. A lot of people have asked me about expansion. Yes, expansion is on the roadmap, but I think we also need to deepen, our reach here in Nigeria as well. So for us, product optimization in the last couple of months, we've been improving our product a lot, particularly as we started engaging like bigger partners, some financial institutions and all. That technology needs to become better, more robust and all. So that's really, really important for us to ensure that we are able to power as many organizations as choose us as their infrastructure to distribute insurance. And we're having a lot of those these days. So product optimization is very key for us. Then again, there's the artificial intelligence bit of things. I know we didn't really delve into the outlook side of things, but I think that when you look at insurance in the market today, most of the use cases now are around like pre-loss, post-loss inspection. But I think that there's a lot more to come around product personalization and customization for users, for onboarding, and have to do with artificial intelligence. So again, that's something still under the product enhancement that I mentioned earlier. That's something that we are investing significantly in at the moment to just get that to the stage where it can power not just businesses here in Nigeria, but even outside the shores of Nigeria. And then distribution. So growth is our watchword for this year. So we really want to grow significantly. And part of that growth is in-house growth and is expansion as well. So growth in here to really get the numbers going, onboard more partners, acquire more users through those partners. And for us, we really want to make it easy for anyone to add insurance to their platform. So even a store owner can onboard insurance on their platform, leveraging our infrastructure. The most sophisticated blockchain or fintech platform can onboard insurance in our platform. So we need to get to that level where distribution is so easy and as a consequence, growth is inevitable. So those things are important for us. And then just generally around the industry, we intend to also do a lot more around education, around awareness, and this is not just for us. This is just bringing people to the awareness of insurance. And we're doing that with some specific marketing activities that will be rolling out, as well as partnerships with other players in the industry.
Right, great. And I think one thing that you mentioned, one of your previous responses was the level of engagement within the industry, within the ecosystem, and how important that is. And that's something that we at IBS, we are very keen on, through our conferences, our webinars, and even through the podcast, right? And we've been happy to have you as one of our partners in one of our previous conferences. And we'll be doing a lot more of that as well this year, bringing all of the necessary stakeholders into the same room to have these conversations. And then we can see that meaningful growth within the market that we need to see. There are wins right now, just like you mentioned, but is it where we need to be? Maybe not. So yes, thank you very much. It's been an exciting conversation so far. The space is growing. Today on our account, we've been counting since 2020. We have about 25 insurance technology players, InsurTech players within the Nigerian market. We want to see a lot more, and that's the growth from from two. Exactly. so yes, growth. Maybe just like you said, growth. That exponential growth. Perhaps we want to see even 50 this year at the end of this year, right?
Exactly.
So, 0.3% penetration. Hey, there's a lot of room to serve even the retail market a lot more. So yes, thank you very much, and well done to you and your team for all that you do. You and Alex.
Thank you for having us. Always interesting talking about insurance, at least for me. I know it's not most people's favorite topic, but
yeah,
it's always an exciting moment. And I must also appreciate you for what you're doing in the space, bringing awareness, giving a platform for founders who are in the InsurTech space to tell their stories. I think you guys are doing an excellent job, and I must commend you for that.
Thank you very much.
Hi, and I hope you did enjoy that conversation. Quite interesting one. Do ensure that you continue to listen to our podcast and share as well with your colleagues and friends future episodes and even previous ones on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, on every platform that you get your podcasts.
Right, and also don't forget to join the conversation on all of our social media platforms. We might have comments, reviews, as well as questions. Please do share on our LinkedIn page, on our Twitter page, as well as remember to follow us.